Yo, still bills. What's the deal, man? Yo, I'm back. We starting off this Monday. Ready to knock this work week out, man, so we can get to the next week. If you dig what I'm saying. PP game, man. We got to get into some shit, man. That's this Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez fight from Saturday night, man. Good fight, entertaining fight, great card. I thought it was just an overall good show. I enjoyed it. I buckled and I bought it. I did not want to buy it, but I bought it. I real life did not want to buy it, but I bought it. I definitely bought it, man. But the fight itself, I really want to get into that, man. It was a good fight. First off, I want to say Kenny Bayless, he definitely needs to be reprimanded for his officiating job in that ring on that night. Because that was a terrible officiating job, man. He really, I'm going to have to pull over for a minute. He really did not do it. He really didn't show himself in a positive light, officiating that fight, bro. It was a bad job of reffing in there. He was just entirely too visible. It's not about you, you know what I'm saying? And even when it is about you, because it is about you when it's time to, you're the man, you're the judge, jury, and executioner in the ring, you know what I'm saying? So for you to do the shit that you was doing and allowing Caleb to hold a little too much and not pin, how do you give warning to David when David isn't the one initiating the clinches? I think that was a little bit ridiculous. And you just let him get away with it, it was just excessive holding, and it just wasn't really a good look, man. It wasn't really a good look. He got a lot of leeway in that fight and you didn't do anything about it. I couldn't understand how you was giving David Benavidez warnings, but not Caleb Plant. I thought that was just a tad bit ridiculous, man. But nonetheless, credit to Caleb Plant for being, if he's not giving you no warning, you keep doing what it is that you're doing. I thought that was smart because it muffled David Benavidez's offense, it muffled his momentum, it muffled his forward motion. And you saw visible signs of frustration. The rounds 1 through 6, he got dominated. That fight could have easily been a draw. Could have easily been a draw. He banked all those early rounds in, bro, and it wasn't even competitive in the first 6 rounds. You got to think, after 6 rounds, if he wins 6 rounds, that if you don't knock him down or knock him out, the fight is automatically going to be a draw. So he banks those early 6 rounds, and it shows David Benavidez in this real distress type of energy. He can't. Police always do this neighborhood. I was gonna say the police. That shit just threw me. It showed him in this type. He was just really distressed. He was really at a displaying a high level of stress, not being able to cut off the ring, missing wide, whiffing really big, not being able to get his jab going, just no head movement. He was just there to be hit. He was just looking like, damn, bro, like when someone stands in the middle of the ring and holds their hands out like this and starts doing this, like stand still and fight me, that shows a sign of duress. Which David Benavidez did. It was a serious sign of duress. He did not like having to go and follow this dude around and chase him. And that's how it was for the first 6 rounds, man. Hit, jab, wrap up, jab, wrap up, jab, wrap up. And that was smart boxing. That was Floyd. He just wasn't as savvy with the clinches. And now with the clinches, when you go to clinch with somebody, you have to lock their arms into place, and that requires a tightening of the muscle. That requires wrapping up and locking your arms into place, tightening up your muscle so you can't break loose and hit me with the free hand. That exerts energy. And now you couple that with somebody who's tap dancing from the outside and throwing in combination when you already have a questionable gas tank. That eventually led to his doom. He couldn't maintain that pace. He couldn't, after round 7, He started getting hit a lot. His defense, it became compromised. He was, he couldn't move around the ring as much. He's getting hit a lot easier. And, that just spelled his doom for from round 7 to 12. And I think that head clash as well really rattled his senses because, it was like, yo, a head clash between two orthodox fighters, like, yikes. That was wild, man. But it just wasn't. It was a beat down after that. It was a beat down after that. It was a beat down after that. I wasn't mad at David Benavidez getting the victory. I won't argue against it, but I won't argue against anybody ruling it a draw either. The dude went in there and when you're off, listen, I get having to make adjustments and having to find holes in somebody's game. I get that, but when y'all are at the peak of your powers, y'all at the peak of your strength, your stamina, you have a full gas tank, you haven't burned through your energy reserves yet, you still need to find a way to have success when you're both at your physical best, at your best. And he wasn't able to do that at the peak of his strength. He wasn't able to do that. He didn't. For someone to not start having success until you run out of gas, that says a lot. That says a whole hell of a lot. That says a whole hell of a lot. I think that was the most alarming thing in the fight. He didn't start. His offense was completely muffled and muted until Caleb Plant ran out of gas. Then after he runs out of gas, he's punch drunk. He's pretty much there to be knocked out or at least dropped. You don't do any of them, and I don't want to hold him, indict him on not being able to drop him or stop him or anything like that. But for one, you promised us that. You promised us by the 6th round. The only thing that happened in the 6th round was you getting dominated. From rounds 1 to 6, you got dominated. You get Jesus. There was probably one swing round in that first 6 rounds. So how anybody can have that fight 111 to 117 is just nasty. That was asinine to me, man. And that individual needs to really be looked into, because that shit was unacceptable. That was extremely unacceptable. But I don't want to indict you for that. But you did open that door when you opened your mouth and said, yo, I'm putting this motherfucker in the hospital. I'm breaking his jaw in the first 6 rounds. You promised a knockout. Now, we can talk about all the, the excess clinching, but we also got to remember that he started finding success when Caleb Plant was clinching. When he would force them clinches, Caleb Plant was weak by that time, so he didn't have the strength to muffle his arms as successful as he did in the first 6 rounds. He started hitting him on the clinch, timing him coming in. He started doing all that shit. And Kenny Bayless at that time was not as, by the time the last 3 or so 4 rounds came around, he wasn't as visible in that fight. He wasn't as visible in that fight. Now, if you're professing to be this monster, that's the moniker you want to run with, it's up to you to find the space and gain the proper leverage for you to get that kill shot off. And he didn't do that. He didn't do that. And that, like I said, I don't think that all five, when you get to the highest level of boxing, they're both former world champions. And David proved on Saturday night that he belonged to the discussion as being a top super middleweight. When you get to that, knockouts are not, you're not just supposed to just knock everybody the fuck out like that. You're not. You have to respect your opponent. You have to respect the level of your opponent. But when you go out of your way, and it's not so much David Benavidez, it's his fans who are trying to, compare the performance between how he looked and how Canelo looked in their victories over Caleb Plant. It's like, it's really no comparison. It's really no comparison, man. Yeah, I think Caleb Benavidez did, he busted him up a little bit more. Yeah, I could definitely say that. But Canelo stopped him. He promised us a knockout. He didn't deliver. Canelo did. Canelo didn't lose a whole bunch of rounds consecutively. He didn't get dominated in the first half of the fight. He didn't. He did not get dominated in the first half of the fight. Matter of fact, he came out the gate and was able to pin Caleb Plant to the ropes. Just hurt him to the ropes. And, he forced him to the ropes. And was able to counter him center ring. I really need y'all to understand, Caleb Plant has a style that historically has given Canelo headaches. And how he was able to neutralize that man's lateral movement and mobility and have success on not only in the rope, but at the middle of the ring. That says a lot about who it is that he is. Yeah, the game plan was different. Yeah, most definitely. The game plan was different. The game plan was definitely different. He didn't rap as much. He didn't rap at all with Canelo. But he still used the same lateral movement. He still employed the same style. And that style has historically given Canelo headaches. David Benavidez was not able to cut off the ring. He was not able to cut off the ring. And I think how everybody is disregarding that is just kind of asinine to me. I seen somebody say, well, rounds 6 through 12, I don't know how you would say 6, but it should have been 7. Round 6 through 12 showed me that Canelo, David Benavidez would beat the shit out of Canelo. And I'm like, what happens through rounds 1 through 6? Because Canelo never had no problems with nullifying this dude's movements, man. Like, I wasn't impressed with David Benavidez in this fight. I just wasn't. I just wasn't, because you were supposed to look like the Mexican monster from rounds 1 to 12. And granted, stamina is a part of the game. You're supposed to outlast your opponent. I get that. I definitely get that. But what happens when you're fighting somebody who has the same level of mobility as a Caleb Plant, but they don't get tired? Like a Billy Joe Saunders. What happens then? And that's what's getting ignored. If someone can just tap dance on you and there's a lot, they have a better gas tank. They can do this for all 12 rounds. What happens when you come across them? That's what's getting ignored. So don't talk to me about rounds 6 or 7 through 12 without talking about rounds 1 through 6. When David Benavidez was kept off balance for the entire first. The dude, he was averaging maybe 37 punches a round. And those were punches that he wasn't even fully committing to because he wasn't in a position to land the shots. That shoe shine and shit, then body shots, none of that was visible at that time because he wasn't in position to land that shit. He wasn't in position to land that. He was with him, and he was off balance. That was never a factor with Canelo. And the thing is, the longer the fight goes, the more opportunities you give your opponent to knock you out. Canelo took the fight out of the judge's hands. Caleb didn't. Or not Caleb, but Benavidez didn't. Did he win the fight? Yeah, he did. I'd give him the victory, but I'd give him a draw as well. I just think it's just ridiculous that we got to sit up here and have this conversation between the two of them. Now, granted, I don't want to see Canelo fight Bivol. I want to see him fight Benavidez. I think that's for bigger fight for Mexican Independence Day in September. I think that's a much bigger fight. I think that's what the fans want, and I think that's a fight that the fans should get. He proved his worth last night, on Saturday night. But the comparing of the two, oh man, look at how he did. Nah. He beat Caleb worse than Canelo did. How? When Canelo stopped him. How did he beat him worse when Canelo never had to get those variables and dimensions that Caleb Plant has in his game was never an issue for Canelo. Yet, David couldn't even get in the rhythm until this man's energy completely dissipated. That is a sign of the times. You can't disregard that. You can't. You can't. I think it's foolish to do so. And it's dishonest. He stunned on that dude from rounds 1 through 11. Caleb stunned on David Benavidez from rounds 1 to 6. And ran out of gas, and all right, now here he comes. It's levels, bro. It's levels. So good win for David Benavidez. I'm not impressed, but it was a good win nonetheless. He proved his worth in the division, and he beat another, a top, opponent in the division. So, yeah, I'm pulling in the work. That's pretty much how I'm feeling about it, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think, and I will get with y'all later. Y'all be easy. Deuces.